Hey folks, welcome to Studio 54, aka episode 54 for the only, one and only Dust 514 podcast slash Eve podcast slash comic book movie news podcast slash all things making fun of Soraya and his ferrets podcast. And we'd like to welcome you to, like I said, episode 54 here in the mighty palatial studios of the Biomassed broadcasting empire. And it is also a fairly interesting week since it's going to be the 2-year live anniversary of Dust 514. So that's a pretty nice little event, and it was earmarked by CCP with a quick blog and some Omega boosters in everybody's inbox. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start out with a couple intros, then we're going to kind of get into our show topics. Tonight, it's a little bit more technical in our discussions tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the slot progression kind of threads that are going on, the power core concept, things like that. And one of the things I was going to touch on, and Pokey and I had a riff on earlier, like an actual good riff, like a jazz riff, not a rift, as in an argument, was a little bit about the price points that we're seeing for the skins, which was a little bit irksome. Maybe we can sort through some of that as well. And also, I think we've got some ubiquitous news about the mighty Eve Legion that I'm sure Soraya is licking his chops to share with us. On that note, let's go ahead and get our intros out of the way. So let's shake it up a little bit and start right in the middle of the pile and go in with Soraya.
Funny. Soraya, CPM1 co-host here on the show, occasional spammer of our blog feed, and absolutely unable to put myself not the first in introductions, no matter how hard I try.
Yes. There's only so many options. Okay, Pokey.
I guess trying to set this bar on a day with a total of 4 people in the channel is not the ideal choice, but
hey, you're gonna need more cover.
you weren't going to win that one. But yeah, I'm Pokey Draven from OSG Planetary Operations, co-host here on the Biomassed podcast, and a writer and editor for the blog.
Outstanding. And Bait?
Hey, I'm Aiwha Bait, director at Demonic Cowboys, and writer on the Biomass blog.
Yep. And I am Jason Larison, a member of OSG Planetary Operations on the Dust side and Agony Unleashed on the Eve side. And I am a random media contributor to the Biomassed podcasting empire. And I have not yet actually inputted words to text on the blog yet, although it is I was going to say surprisingly good, but I have faith in my bros. It's actually a pretty good little piece of entrepreneurship from Pokey and Bait and Zell as well. Really good work, really professional website. I highly recommend you check out biomass.net or biomass.com. I think either one gets you there. So let's go ahead and dive right in since we've got an action-packed show, and all I can hear right now is the echoes of Zell screaming into the mic that his ferret had been acting up. I don't really know what that means, but there's something interesting going on tonight. So we're going to leave it off with your CPM update with Soraya. What do you think, brother? What's going on in the world of CPM?
It's been pretty quiet. I don't think we've really done much this last week, except I know people have been discussing the whole power core thing in the background too. I mean, we're still trying to get hopefully some public word on a CPM2 at some point in the very near future. I would like to hope, but we'll see.
So if you were to say, as an educated observer, what do you think the odds are we are going to have a CPM2?
I still continue to hold that it's an assumption, but until it's announced, it's not a thing. Or in the case of something, sometimes it's announced and it's still not a thing. But yeah, no, I think it's just a matter of time till we'll have official word of something. We already have discussions going of who's gonna run and who's not, and who should win and who shouldn't, and who should be like banned from even being able to run, and etc.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen some of the shots going back and forth on that one, which I find mildly entertaining.
Absolutely banned. My gosh.
Oh goodness, this is going to be interesting here if they actually, in fact, announce that there is a CPM2. This will be high adventure. Okay.
It's always fun when politics happens, man.
No, not really. It's well, it's one of those interesting things for me because I get a kick out of it, not because I'm really into the political angle of it necessarily. I've kind of
The drama is entertaining. That's
well,
the thing.
I think I can't even call it drama, but I will have to admit there's I from my point, let me kind of get my Clint Eastwood get off my lawn speech going. It's how serious some people take a game that is on PS3 that nobody honestly can tell you is going to be around by Christmas. Like people are going to get very animated about it, and they're going to type furiously, and they're gonna make comments all over the
I would like to
social
think it
media. It's
still has to
hilarious.
be here by Christmas because I think that you can't sell product to people without a significant amount of time of advance notice. So I would like to be able to. I would like to think that we're good through Christmas, but because you'd have to have a lot of notice of something like that. But
No, not really. I think there's a lot of games out there that have their fortunes have turned on a dime.
yeah.
I mean, this is CCP marketing we're talking about. CCP marketing. You really think that they would give people common courtesy?
That's a good point.
Okay.
Okay.
No, yeah.
Well, no.
I'll let you win that one and just walk off.
That being said, I'm not throwing the doom and gloom hammer out. All I'm saying is that people are going to get very, very emotionally involved in this in a way that I find somewhat humorous. Because at the end of the day, it's a game, and
It's the best game.
it is the best game for some at the moment that they are playing and they have nothing better to do.
That was quite some dancing there.
I work on that. I do it for a living. Okay, so with that, I take it that there's literally no other CPM.
No, I've
right?
got no nuggets for you. Sorry.
Okay, no. That's fine. And one thing that is interesting that we probably want to revisit maybe in a future show is kind of it feels like the role of the CPM has definitely evolved over the last several months than I think where people thought it was prior, particularly based on Rotati's on comments, even on this show. So it's kind of interesting to see how this is all working out because he is quite adroit at dipping very deep into the community for targeted feedback right now. I think he's definitely, if not skill level 5, he's definitely got a 4, and he's got a lot of SP racked up for the 5th level on how to do that. So that was traditionally almost the sole purview of the CPM, and that's definitely changed a lot. That's based on Rotati's personality. So
yeah, I mean, I think we should probably have more than just me. Oh, look, I see another guest. But I think we probably could make a whole episode of kind of a discussion about how CPM1 went as a term and all sorts of stuff like that. We should plan that.
Well, I was actually, that is on my queue of things to lay up. It was sort of in a way it's hinged on no joke intended, but once they announced that there was going to be a CPM2, I thought that would be a good. Okay, let's talk about how CPM1 went as a good segue into what do we want to look for the CPM2 candidates, that kind of thing. So it's an interesting topic. Like I said, and I'm not poking fun at anybody that's interested in the CPM. It honestly is one of those things that is probably can be a very frustrating but also a very rewarding sort of web community sort of activity, and I'm all about it. I think it's pretty interesting. It is, in all fairness, though, high comedy on some occasions based on how serious some people take themselves during the process. And you're right, we do have another guest. Hey, Iron Wolf, do you mind giving us a quick intro?
Hello, I'm Aiwha Saber, CPM member 1, and I'm here to annoy the crap out of everybody.
No, you've already been beaten to the punch. We got this guy named Zell. He's got kind of a bowl cut. He's over there to your left. But we do appreciate you being on, brother. It's actually been a little while since I think we've had you on the show, right?
Yeah, I had to reinstall a couple other problems with my PC.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So we just kind of went through a fairly concise CPM update from Soraya, and I was wondering if you had anything you wanted to add. Whether you heard him say anything or not is irrelevant. We just want to hear you talk, Wolfie.
Well, other than I have very good confidence in the future of the CPM regarding the stuff we had over the last few weeks going on, and I hope to see us going forward.
Awesome. Okay. So let's kind of dive into our first technical topic for the night. Now I'm going to admit that I am somewhat out of my depth. I've only been able to do about an hour's worth of show prep on a couple of these, but I've got a couple guys in the room, one by the name of Pokey Draven, the other one by the name of Bait, who are A, quite technically competent, and B, read the shit out of the forums, and they're only surpassed in their reading the shit out of the forums by this guy named Iron Wolf Saber. So this could work out pretty well. What I'd like to talk about a little bit is the slot progression / power core discussion in terms of, I think this was an idea. I think some are attributing it to Aero Yasavi bringing it out. I've heard some conflicting discussions if maybe he was regurgitating another idea that had been a little bit older. I think it's probably a combination of both. But effectively, there's been a growing discussion, and we even talked a little bit about it on this show, of a pseudo tiericide model where basically all frame suits of a given race and a given weight class get the same slot weapon equipment layout based on whatever their role is. So, all the assault suits, for example, across within the race, all the medium frames get the same high-low. Now, the assaults and the logis still have their differentiating marks with weapon slots and equipment slots. But the true defining factor of what the quote-unquote tier of the suit would be is really just CPU and PG. So it's kind of like the Apex suit model, if you will. So there was a little bit of that discussion going on. Well, actually, a lot of that discussion going on. And we had a pretty good kickoff on that with Rattati on our show when he kind of came on for our 1 year anniversary. And then that was augmented by some discussion about a skin-like module called the Power Core. And effectively what that would do, if you take some of the posts at face value, it would dramatically lower the number of unique suits that the game has to mess with, thereby freeing up perhaps quite a bit of, digital ether memory, go juice, or whatever that might make your frame rate better or some kind of jazz like that. Now, Rattati saw the idea. He reacted very, very positively to it. And it appears that discussion is gaining some steam. Now, that's about the extent of my knowledge of it. Now, my initial take when I read it was, sounds cool, or at least I don't see glaring errors necessarily in it, because once you invented the Apex suit, it kind of made standard suits not that attractive anymore, other than the fact that you could modify the slot layouts to whatever you wish. But now that you can modify Apex suits, that's officially, the tent flap is open for, some form of tiericide at that point. So with that, I want to go ahead and kind of turn it over to kind of our more forum savvy guys and some of our more technical guys in terms of Pokey, Bait, and Iron Wolf. And if you guys can kind of run through what your thoughts on the topic are, and please, if I've left any gaping holes, please plug them up. So I'm going to turn this over. Pokey, if you don't mind leading us off, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Before I've obviously spoken many times that I am a big fan of the normalizing slot layouts between tiers. I find that the difference between a standard suit and a proto suit, you basically have two things going on there. You have more slots in a proto suit, and then you have more resources, which translates to better modules. So at this point, you have better modules and you have more of them, and that causes huge differences between the power level of a standard suit versus a proto suit. And I think that this is a big problem. I think that it's a lot, the cause of a lot of frustration for new players and veterans alike who like to, run cheaper suits and not proto stomp and whatnot. So I think that in terms of my personal opinion, the move to normalized slot layout between tiers is a great idea. I think it's going to promote a lot of flexibility in the lower tier suits, because currently there's a lot of things you can't do simply due to lack of slots. You can't really do any cool utility stuff because you're just putting out as much HP as you can, which is boring. And I think that this will mix things up quite a bit, and I think it'll be a lot better in making new players as well as veterans a little more viable to use cheaper tiered stuff, and perhaps lessen that proto stomping effect that we currently have.
No, I think that's a pretty good take on it. Bait, Iron Wolf, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this has been a really long fought thing by the entire community. Is just that we fought with the original development team. We fought with Bertati a little bit because he didn't see the exact value in it. And the first part of that cookie to crumble would have been, like as you stated out, the Apex suits. Then the introduction of the HAVs in the similar format of having the same slots between all three tiers, with CPU and PG being the only definers. And it's been gone back and forth on the various points of why we should tiericide, and it's always been on the case that it's mostly to help the newer player. And the power core idea is probably the fuel on the fire. We've been building up the tinder for the last 3 years just about because of this, and now the whole thing is on fire.
Yeah, I think the power core it has a lot of advantages to it, and it's actually a very elegant and simplistic idea. And to be clear, it was actually Avalo Cantor that initially proposed the power core idea, and then Arrow kind of expanded upon it and put it in his own thread, which then exploded into a massive discussion, which Rattati jumped on right away. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it makes a lot of sense if you think about it in terms of accessibility to the game now. One of the interesting things about it now, so the way I assume it's going to work and the way it's sort of described is the power core would fit in a module slot very similar to how a skin does. And then you would get, standard, advanced, or proto level, roughly, CPU PG tiers. And I assume that the power cores can, it'll be interesting to see how this works, because in theory, if I bought a Caldari power core, it would give you more CPU than PG, that kind of stuff. It makes me wonder if they're going to have to racially lock them, or because I can go to any for example, I can go to any LP store right now and buy a specialist rifle variant, proto rifle variant from any LP store. If it is a module, and I may be oversimplifying it, what if I wanted to buy a Galente module that gave me a lot of PG and not a lot of CPU? In theory, I could put that on a Caldari suit, and then I would get more PG and less CPU. Is that accurate, or am I kind of missing the mark on that?
I imagine they would have to racially lock it unless they wanted to really open up a can of worms of providing kind of a deeper level of customization, which could most likely end up with really bad balance problems. So I think that they'd have to racially lock it.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. I'm sorry, Bate, go ahead.
Well, the only thing that you guys are talking, and I quite like the idea, but if they standardize the number of slots across all tiers, and they implement these modules, you then have to look at how much PG and CPU do you get per tier of module, and that's the only thing that I could see being a problem as far as balance. Is standard suits having either too little PG and CPU or too much, for each tier.
And that is going to be an expected possible casualty during this whole shakeup of shifting the the view of how all of this is going to work, because we will have to reissue out the resources available to standard and advanced at least, and if there may be even a chance for a slot reroll on some of these suits too. So there's always going to be that in consideration. CPC Rotati has come up with a rather elegant system from his point of view when it comes to designing a suit with slots in it, which will be based on it's basically the slot assignment and the fitting requirements based on the average item fittings for that various type of slot, and it so far has worked out after we finally tune it. So it gets us in a
It's the
ballpark
Apex
easily.
model, right?
The Apex model, and I believe the new HEVs definitely went that route as well.
Yeah, I think that's good for getting it close, and then you can always fine tune to make certain fits work. It did work for the most part for HAVs. There's still some inconsistencies that need to be fixed, but overall, I think his method is pretty solid for getting close to the mark.
It's better than throwing darts at the board.
Yes, it is. Rational method is always the best method.
Well, I think in an interesting way, there's two ways that I think they could go down the road. Is more as a true module style activity. Now, then they would, if they did that, they would really need to look at the whole. I think your suit purchase is definitely the old CCPZ. Your suit is your Iron Man suit, and the suit should be effectively a BPO, and it costs nothing. Like you buy whatever, like you get whatever ones you get when you start the game, or maybe you can earn them through loyalty or whatever. But that would actually give more meaning to, I think, the skins or the BPOs, because I'm still, the way this all starts to get muddy for me is how do you square the difference between a skin, a BPO, and a power core at some point, because they are all interconnected in this little Venn diagram of value. Like how much are these things worth, and how tuning them technically, I think, to make them playable in the game is probably the easiest part. In all fairness, because I think the model used with the Apex suit and the HAVs worked very well. I mean, the reality is we know how much CPU and PG that the three tiers of suits get now, and that's probably roughly what the power cores would give you. But I'm curious to see how does this then work with the combination of skins and BPOs and the normal drop suit.
Well, if it were up to me, as soon as you train the skill to level 1, you get a free suit with a militia power core pre-built into it, free, in the mail. If that were up to me.
It's not a bad way to look at it.
Skins will continue to remain purely cosmetic, and of course the suit will have its default skin to go with it. And the power core, anything above militia, you will have to then buy out like any other standard module.
Yeah, and existing BPO suits would just be converted into a standard BPO power core for that suit type. So if you have a Caldari Assault BPO, you would just get a Caldari Assault, standard power core, and that's what you would stick in your BPO frame, I guess you could call it, and that would effectively give you the same result as having a free suit with a free power core in it, and you go from there.
There is going to be quite a bit of turmoil with the skins overall, because we do have rather a large number of skins and BPO suits out there with these unique color patterns on them, and it's going to drive down the price once the market fully opens up to include these BPOs as well. There's going to be a lot of people with a lot of spare suits.
Yeah, that was something that I've been trying to figure out is, like I said, skins versus BPOs. And I thought that in theory, the power core option truly gets you click. I kind of like your idea, Wolf. At the end of the day, like I'm sitting here thinking through this, and your idea of you get like a BPO, a standard fit, a BPO that you for that class, if you will, that racial class. Once you train skill level 1, and then the power cores that you put on, and probably associating some skill requirements to each power core is probably not a bad idea either. And it could be a variety of different things. Like you might need to have 3s and 4s and multiple different things to get up to proto power cores, for example. That might not be a bad way of coaching players through skill tree navigation either.
Well, one thing
If I wanted to go a step further, the BPO suit that you're given that training skill level 1 would have a pre-fit on it. Not exactly optimal, but at least something useful, and it plays to the strength of the suit.
wouldn't that just be an Apex suit then, though?
It would be an Apex suit, yes.
Well, then people aren't going to buy them if they get them for free.
Oh, they'll buy the skin.
Yeah, but that's different.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd be down for that. The pre-fit suit. I think that's
let
going to
me put it
devalue
this way.
the Apex.
The one thing that would make me legitimately a bit PO'd out of this whole process is I look at the Apex suits that I bought with LP or with cash money, aka ARM, and then suddenly everybody's got like 10 of them. And then all I really bought was a skin and a pre-lock suit.
That is something we're going to consider case by case as we go down the list of things to convert over to the new system. Apex suits, if I had to say so, I would strongly argue for a refund if they were bought with a ARM.
Well, there's a couple ways they could do it. They could definitely do that, which they have in a way done in the past. So fair point there. Or they could make the Apex suits. They could actually make them more attractive to own. Frankly, like you could make them more. Like give them like a bump to whatever power core you put on there, like a 5% bump or something like that for resources.
LP game bonus.
Maybe. I mean, there's different things you could do. I'm less of a fan of removing them from the game and then potentially aggravating the shit out of people. If there's a way to find a creative way to make them attractive and worth the value, I think that's legit. I don't know. There's probably 15 different ways you could do it. But they all have probably different pros and cons. But that is something that they are going to have to sort out. And in and amongst all of this, actually, is one of the things I did kind of want to throw in the mix, and we can hit it now, and really, I think maybe tease it out a little bit later. But what is the price point for all of this? Like, how does all this work with Orem, ISK, and LP?
There may be a couple of casualties involved if they. I mean, there's been things been playing around internally with talks and all. And then this may be a first opportunity to actually make a move on what's been discussed. But overall, it's definitely going to be changing a lot of things if we do pursue this model entirely. And we're going to have to analyze and think, do we really want to do things like this? And everything was going to have to be sat down and thought about. Hopefully the skins will start taking up the brunt of the new items coming in and out.
Who?
Where I'm hoping that the cosmetic stuff, such as the skins, would continue to bear the brunt of the people paying for things. We may consider a couple other boosters, but who knows about what will happen to the gear.
All right, so help me out with the whole like LP skins costing as much as an Apex suit thing. That's one I'm still trying to figure out.
I will not be able to comment on that immediately because right now Rattati's still basically what he's still doing right now is trying to populate his entire category of things he can offer to Dust 504 players before he can start considering changing prices on them, so to say.
Oh no, yeah, I figured you and Zell probably would have to clam up on this one, but I'll throw it out to Pokey and Bait though. I'll speak for me alone. At least just to kind of start it. I saw that and I was kind of had my, WTF moment because that's the part where I truly believe that they are missing the mark in terms of how they attack their monetization strategy. And right now, for the record, CCP, if you're looking, Pokey Draven, Jason Larison, aka CCP Mo Money and CCP Straight Cash, we're for hire. So
yes.
we could help you with your monetization efforts. I think that generally the products, the value of the products and again, it's real cash money you're talking about for the most part, not so much LP. It is a little bit now, but or it's getting more LP involved. But the bottom line is the ARM is the value. I just don't think is there for the price point. Now I'm sure that they're going to show that a lot of people's buying them, but it makes me wonder how many people aren't buying them that would or could if they were, or they would be buying significantly more of them if they were differently priced. And I would also offer that if you maintained a lower baseline price, you could, like, every week run a special on one specific, like, you have a rotation of, let's say, 10 drop suit skins that you offer once every 10 weeks, maybe. And like, it's the Serpentis or whatever. It could be, the Rattati, Doom of Trolls, fucking, AKO, Sentinel suit or whatever. Um, but you only offer it like every so often, every so many weeks or months, and then you jack the price up to that, somewhere around the $15 to $17 range, aka the cost of a Plex in Eve, which is sort of quite literally the gold standard, no pun intended with ARM. But that would be something I think that they should really look at pursuing, because right now, getting an LP skin or getting a skin versus a BPO like an Apex suit, they incredibly overvalue or devalue one of the two involved. And depending on who you ask or what the next changes are, that, it's really hard to answer which suit is which in that equation.
Well, as somebody who has not spent a dime to buy Orm in the 2 years that I've played this game, I will say that if CCP did what you just said, Jason, I would cough up some money to buy a skin on sale, because right now the prices for the skins, from what I heard, I haven't logged on Dust. My PlayStation's power supply is broken. But if they are as much as an Apex suit, I'm not gonna get a skin. I'm not gonna grind out all those hours and all that time for something that I'm only gonna see in my quarters. Well, no, not in my quarters. In the war barge pre-match for a minute. I'm not gonna do it. It's not worth my time. Not worth my effort.
Yeah, and let me be clear. That's the LP version. It's basically the LP equivalent. I don't think they've quite gotten there yet with the ARM versions. But by the way, they're not cheap though. That doesn't mean that they're easy to get either.
Well, and here's the thing. I'll put my tinfoil hat on for a second. They could very well be planning on doing the sale model like we talked about, but they're just going to release them at full price and not do it to see who they can get to pay full price for, and then they'll switch it to the sale model to get everyone who didn't pay full price in the first place. I could totally see that happening, and it would probably work. I mean, I'm not going to pay for it at full price, but if they give me a half off, sale every so often, yeah, I'll jump on that, and it probably will work. Is the thing.
Hey, Catmerk, you mind giving us a quick intro?
Hey, I'm Catmerk, a forum warrior, and a meow. Meow.
Well played. So, Cat, have you been monitoring the discussion about the skins, BPOs, and the power cores?
What do you mean by monitoring? Whether I was listening right now, or?
Yeah, here the show. I just wasn't sure where you hopped in at.
I'm not sure, just hopped in, so no idea what's going on.
We started the discussion about the slot progression leveling, then the power core idea, and then we kind of drifted into the how do you square all that with BPOs and skins and so forth. It's kind of we're in this big sort of round robin discussion, because they're all somewhat related in terms of how do you get a drop suit to use, and then how much is it going to cost you to use it. At a baseline rate is one of the things we were looking at. And then I mentioned that apparently it looks like the LP skins that they're just now putting out are effectively the same price as the LP Apex suits, which is a bit crazy as far as I'm concerned.
I would agree. I'm still grinding for my Apex suit since for the longest time Factional Warfare wasn't available in my time zone. But thanks to negative feedback, jump-starting Kaldari Fac War, I can now finally get some LP.
I hear you. Now, I will have to admit, by the way, the LP skins that the pics I just saw, I think earlier this morning, those things are pretty legit looking. They're very sharp. I like them. And to Bates' point, I would like to see them more than for like 45 seconds for the amount of money that you got to cough up for one, or the amount of time that you're coughing up in terms of grinding for LP. Either one of those two is the value I just don't think is there at the price points in either LP or ARM.
Not at all. If I could put that shit on and like walk around in my quarters with it and dance, then yeah, I would grind out. Like I said earlier, I would grind out the time and the frustration to get one. But otherwise, I'm gonna continue to run my faction warfare and buy my proto suits and my red tools, and I'm not even gonna bother with skins.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what else can Dust offer other than the lobby shooter? The problem is you don't have a physical lobby, and if you had one, you could maybe justify getting a snazzy paint job on your suit.
Maybe if we would bring people together in the war barge.
That's not a bad idea.
Dance around with my corp mates.
Yeah, I think, believe it or not, I think the idea of having a corp war barge as the lobby you sit in is pretty good. I just don't know that they can get to that technically right now.
Probably not, and it will require using up server power, which I don't think they want to do.
Well, if we can find a way to load a warbarge state without using a battle server, it may be more possible. Like if we work some magic trickery with a 3D chat room in EVE Online systems instead.
Magic.
Yes, more magic.
That's definitely what it would be.
Well, they give item to another player is considered magic in this game.
That's true. It did take them 2 years to do that David Copperfield shit.
I still don't understand why it was so difficult.
For some odd reason, EVE's database items don't like being magically transported.
I guess it was for me, it was the I can send you money, but I can't send you stuff thing. That's what always confused the shit out of me for the longest time.
It's database stuff that I don't even understand when it comes to Dogma and Catma.
No, I totally like I said, there's some technicalities to the discussion that I probably don't even want to approach. At least I'm certainly not the right guy to jump into it. It was pretty, like I said, I'm very fascinated to see what road they're going to try to take with all this. I really like the skins idea. I think it was a really, really solid way to do it. I like the idea of the power core, in terms of basically providing, a true, whole cloth suit, and then you add power core, and then you add modules and skins, and you basically have a customization base. There's a lot of room and flexibility in that to do some different stuff and some pretty neat stuff down the road, potentially. But like I said, it all kind of goes back to, all right, so what is the goal that what is the goal we're driving to here? Is it to keep the game open for another 6 months, a year? Is it to actually have something? That's kind of the question I'll always come back to on all this, because trust me, none of these solutions that we're talking about is going to be done overnight by any stretch of the imagination. And they are pretty interesting. There's some neat ways that you could look at this. I do wish that they would figure out the monetization, and maybe Pookie's right. Maybe they have figured it out from their perspective, but I am at least me personally not that interested in giving them money at the price points versus value that they're offering right now.
I'd have to agree. I was pretty excited about skins, and then I realized they're $10, and I was like, nope.
Yeah, that's at least 50% more than what I would be willing to buy, purchase these things on.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even like it was a little bit more than I wanted to pay. It was like, there's no way in hell I'm giving you $10 to look at myself for a minute in the warp arch. It's not worth it. And like you said, the sad part is that if they pay, I'm not going to spend $10 on one skin, but if they were $5, I'd probably buy 2 skins and they'd still get $10 out of me. And it's no additional cost to them. So I think that the high price model it's hurting them in the end.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways that they could scale it. I mean, you could even go with, sort of a graduating scale. And I've seen a lot of other games do this where, okay, so let's say the skins are $5, but you buy like a 3-pack and it costs you $12. You're gonna buy, like, there'll be people that buy that all day long, literally. Or if you when you buy in bulk or something like that, or if you get an Aurum pack or whatever, they throw a skin in there with it. there's a lot of different ways that they could use this tool. Now granted, and I have to give them full faith on this one. This is still relatively new into the rollout. They've not really shaken out what they can and will do with all this stuff either.
Yeah, we have yet to convert our first skin, so it's gonna be a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I mean, Rotati's got a pretty good track record. That buys a certain amount in my book to see where he takes this.
I mean, vehicles don't even have skin modules yet, so I'd like to see that happen too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I'm not really throwing a shit fit over it. I mean, I'll wait until the chips settle, so to speak, or the dust settles, rather, and see where everything ends up. But yeah, certainly not pleased with it right now, but I do hope that they reach a compromise that works for the players and for the company.
Yeah, hey, actually, I did have a question for Zell and Iron Wolf. Are they gonna, in one of the next hot fixes or patches or whatever, are they gonna figure out a way to show you the skins that you're trying to buy in game?
We've expressed our displeasure about being unable to see skins, and I think the solution we're going to try to go forward is in-game pictures. I think it was, because right now we don't got the support to actually have a preview or ghost fit, so to say. But
I mean, why didn't they just do it like the other suits though, where you could, when you like click the little show info button or whatever, it showed you a picture of the skin?
Because those are not the models of the skin.
But you can do that with some of the other colored ones?
Space magic.
Yeah, nah, it just would hurt my head.
I mean, I guess what you could do is you could have a BPC version of a suit fit with that skin that you could preview, but that's going to get real confusing for people looking at the market.
Alright, so wait, they do have support for just putting pictures in the description?
Oh, the Caldari Quaff's assault suit is a suit by itself, for example, right? But if we were to make a Caldari Quaff skin, there's no suit to slap it on, so to say, when it comes to item preview.
Okay.
I mean, it would be nice if we had like a little hexagon model that had like the 3 shades on it. So that this is what the skin looks like on a hexagon, and gives you an idea of maybe, this is what it might look like on the suit, but
No, I'm following you now. That makes sense.
But I think it'll be more beneficial if we can figure out how to do a ghost fitting instead, but that's very technical.
Well, a fitting tool, period, would be really, really handy. I mean, hell, that's something that the Eve side's been crushing for years. But
and
like
they're getting pretty close now.
Yeah, they are. I mean, like I've seen what they've previewed out there, but having a fitting tool in Dust would be really, really useful.
But there's high work solutions and there's low work solutions, and I think we're gonna try to go for a low work solution for this one.
Okay, no, and that's fair.
I mean, that's probably hurting you guys quite a bit as well, is that no one's going to buy a cosmetic that they can't see, and expecting people to go to the website is just not going to happen. So if a picture is what it takes to kind of get them that, then that's fine. I mean, it's not, excuse me, it's not perfect, but, it works.
Yeah, the closest thing to advertising in-game we got for the new skins would be other people wearing it.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at them, I'm like, well, as a new player, wouldn't even touch these. I mean, how the hell am I supposed to know what I'm buying for $10, which is overpriced as it is? So, yeah.
Well, one of the longer-standing issues we had for a very long time was, what's in this package?
Yeah, no, that was do the Apex suits even have a display on what they contain yet?
I believe all the bundles and packages now display what's inside of them now.
Okay, cool.
I believe that was fixed with the last 1.1, actually.
Yeah, because that was a big problem for me when I first was looking at the Apexes. Like, I don't know what this thing is fitted with, so I don't know if I want to buy it yet. So that was another thing that held me back from buying them initially.
Yeah, the show info button on many things in Dust is woefully inadequate for the info that you desired to be shown.
I remember when the Apex suits came out, I had the Rotati put out a spreadsheet with the stuff that was going to be on the Apex suits, and every time court mates would go to buy an Apex suit, they'd have to, hey babe, what's on this suit? It was on this suit. We'd spend fucking 20 minutes in a squad while one guy bought an Apex suit. Ridiculous.
No, I can totally see that too. By the way.
So yeah, it's another problem, and I hope we can address it eventually, sooner rather than later.
No, I mean, and I'm sure at some point that they will. I'm not concerned that they're not gonna make a stab at it. Let's see. What else did you guys have on your mind tonight? I'm just throwing it out there because we've hit all the major topics that I had teed up. Other than perhaps a little bit more mention of the fact that CCP did everybody a solid by throwing a Omega booster out for the 2-year, quote unquote, 2-year live anniversary of the game. So I thought that was good that they at least acknowledged it. I thought that was pretty handy.
Just a note about that one. It has a different name than most Omega boosters, so you should probably keep it as a collector's item and then sell it in the future.
What's the name?
Oh, that's a good call.
I don't really remember the name. It's something at the end of it, like a few letters.
Gotcha. We'll check out. Thank you.
We could talk about the news about the Eve Legion copyright change.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
It's kind of a black hole, so I'd probably save it for last. So if anyone else has anything they want to talk about first.
Mad Max, highly recommended.
I think it's coming on IMAX, isn't it? Did you see it on large format or just normal?
I can neither confirm nor deny that I have seen it in the U.S. time zone.
Gotcha.
Danny saw it in IMAX, I believe, right?
He might have.
I saw something him post.
Yeah, it is pretty good though. I do recommend it.
Cool.
Does it feel like a proper sequel?
Oh, it is not a sequel. It's very hard to describe. It's clearly of the mythos of Mad Max, but it's the difference is a movie that was made in early 1980s with no budget, basically jumping out of vans and shooting on bridges or sides of the roads in rural Australia, versus somebody who's now, after almost 40 years of filmmaking, done pretty good at it and knows how to make a movie and has got a bank to do it with.
Yeah, it sounds good. I'll be sure to check that one out this coming weekend, hopefully.
In all seriousness, no, it is very well done. Like cinematically, it's very well done. The action sequences are, it's about as good as I've seen in anything up till maybe February of next year when Deadpool comes out. It'll be probably one of the best things going out there until that, other than Avengers: Age of Ultron.
How old are you? Not telling.
No, it was pretty good. So let's see. I'm gonna, Pokey, since you brought it up, regale us of what the earth-shaking news is about the Eve Legion brand that we need to be all aware of.
Yeah, so someone noticed, I think the website that found it was the Nosy Gamer. Nosy Gamer. And basically, the trademark that CCP held for the name Eve Legion has been abandoned, meaning that they are no longer holding a copyright to that name. So that can mean a number of things. People
Trademark.
will probably...
Copyright's a different thing.
I'm sorry, that's correct. Trademark. But yeah, so it's not a confirmation that the game is canceled or is still a thing. It's just saying that they aren't going to be using the name. My personal opinion is
potentially it could be like a domain name renewal where they just didn't do the paperwork. I think they've let the Dust domain name get canceled once before.
Oh, so we should buy it and then ransom them for information on Legion by selling the name back?
No idea.
But yeah. What was that, Bait?
I said that was a fantastic idea.
Yeah. So, in my personal opinion, I think that they might want to just kind of divorce themselves of the Legion name. I think it's got way too much negativity attached to it, regardless of the project that it was associated with is continuing on or not. So I think that, if this is indeed them getting rid of the name intentionally and not just forgetting to pay the bill, I think it's probably a good move on their part. Does anyone have any other comments or thoughts on that?
Well, it goes back to the other piece of news that the Nosy Gamer, originally why he found out about this Eve Legion thing was, CCP has gone private. Yeah, they pulled their stocks out of the market.
They were always private. They were never not private, and that's a misnomer. They had some bonds out that required that they disclose financial information, despite the fact that they're a private company with private investors, and they paid back those bonds, which is a significant amount of money. It was several $1,000,000, and they paid it back, and so they delisted all their financial information.
Well, the one thing what I find interesting about this is I think it was a week prior to FanFest 2014, aka the Rouge Wedding, that the first mention of Eve Legion circuit, or no, it was about a week and a half before that Eve Legion surfaced because of trademarking the image for it and the name for it, and that popped up. So I don't, whoever is out there trolling the interwebs for that kind of shit, they found it and posted it. And that immediately started. I think that was actually, believe it or not, looking back, that might have been one of the contributors to um, the fairly emotional stab that people took. Was everybody got their hopes up when they saw Eve Legion that it was going to be, this thing. It was going to be the game that everybody thought that they were going to receive all along. And it was not quite that when it was unveiled. But I do remember that was just prior to FanFest, so it's interesting that this is, in a weird way, not quite coming full circle, but it sure feels like at least a little circle of life. Like I was eating you, and now I'm suddenly the one about on the fucking dinner menu.
Yeah, I think all of the stuff that was going on and the way it was presented and the order in which information came out just it certainly set the stage for a very emotional outburst from the community, and I honestly don't blame them for being as upset as they were. It was kind of fucked up how they experienced all of that. So it's unfortunate, and hopefully that CCP actually learned from their mistake, which is always questionable.
No.
I can hope, right?
Well, I think they probably did learn. It just the issue ultimately is going to be: did they learn? Did the lesson they learn, is that going to be something that will contribute to products that we want to play, or will it contribute to them going in a different way based on whatever how they view the rest of their business model and the architecture of their products? And that's not evil. That's, trust me. I mean, a lot of people like I said, they get really emotional about these games, but that's simply people making business decisions. And we're really good about throwing rocks at CCP, and anybody that does a podcast about anything CCP related at some point gets pretty good with whipping a brick at their face on occasion. Some of it's deserved and some of it's not. But the one thing I will always tell people is that if you're not literally the person in the room when a decision is being made, it is really, really hard sometimes to understand the context of the decision. You may think you did because you got like really good secondhand information, quote unquote, but if you've ever played the telephone game, it's always different. So, and at the end of the day, CCP, when they make decisions to do whatever, either it's the future of Dust or the future of Legion or a trademark or this or hell, trying to figure out how much to budget for the next quarter. Nobody shows up to the office that day that decision is going to be made and literally have like a little whiteboard of like, who can I hose with this decision? Like, how bad can I make this for me personally and my organization? Like, nobody starts off that way. So I do have to give them a certain amount of slack for that, and that's okay. I mean, I like I said, I'll throw rocks at them along with everybody else, but the reality is you do have to have a certain level of practicality enlaced over all these things. So, is Eve Legion dead? I don't know. It's probably dead as disco as far as I'm concerned.
It's a card game.
Yeah, it's a trading card game. There you go.
First-person match-3 game.
It might very well be.
Pen and paper adventure game.
Board game.
No, all the
Why
above.
not both?
Well, if they can figure out how to do a TCG with Oculus Rift, I'll buy that. Not literally, but that seems like that would fit right now.
Well, they're pushing for the VR stuff quite a bit. CCP kind of wants to be on the head of that wave, I think, and trying to lead the market in terms of the new VR stuff coming out.
Yeah, I think it would be an interesting take on how they could do things. But I mean, like I said, for all we know, it's a mobile game. It's going to be on my iPad like next year. I have no idea.
For some reason, I feel like Legion or whatever they are going to call it will be the first shooter to induce PTSD in people.
Like depending on who you ask, it probably already has.
Oh boy.
G-Labs and
Oh,
the
okay.
Jovian Pole
Well, yeah,
and the blasters on dropships.
the Jovian poll is funny. You could probably also pick out the people that have suffered from the Agent Orange of it as well. Let's see. All right, guys. I think we have covered quite a bit tonight in a fairly condensed time frame, which is not bad. So we're keeping it right about an hour. Is that about right, Zill?
Yeah.
All right. So we're on the mark tonight. All right. Let's go ahead and do our shout outs, and unless anybody's got any roundup thoughts.
I have to say there's been some very interesting things coming out of the PC core lately, concerning how to redo the PC mechanics.
Like what?
Right now, there's a case for trying to argue rebalance the SI districts' attack ranges and bonuses and how they all relate to each other. Because right now it does. Currently, it all favors one type of SI, but if we shifted too much, it would favor a larger alliance versus a small alliance. Whereas a larger alliance can get the synergy of the three together, and a small alliance will not be able to utilize it until they start hitting that critical point. So it's a careful balancing act between the three districts, and also questioning if we can change certain things for this go around anyways.
So, can you? That was a fairly technical rundown that you just gave. Do you mind breaking that down for somebody? Let's say we have people that listen that are only aware of PC, that it is a game mode that they don't play. How would you describe what you just said to them?
Okay, on PC, you got a game board with various map spots. Think of it as Risk. And every map spot is capable of having 1 to 3 types of bases. You got your storage base, you got your attack base, and you got your manufacturing base. Well, the way the bonuses are set up right now is that every one of these bases can do each other's job to a degree. But the storage base is often favored because it can store a larger number of clones. And as long as your map zone has clones on it, it cannot be taken over. And the objective of PC is to eliminate all the enemy clones in one zone in order to capture it. Which has led to the current meta of why everyone wants to use a storage one, because a storage one can not only produce clones, send out attacks, but it has the most amount of clones being stationed on it.
Okay.
The goal is to try to make all three a little bit more synergistic, so that not everyone glomps onto the current storage type as it is now. But if we do it in that fashion, then it only would favor a established group that has a lot of land, because they're now able to use all three of them in tandem in order to strengthen each other. They'll use a production one to feed the storage, and they'll use the storage to feed the attack type to send out attacks further. And this is an advantage that a new group that just added their piece onto the board won't have. And so we have to be very considerate that maybe that the very first map piece that you should bring on would be the production one.
Okay. No, that makes a lot more sense now.
But it's been a interesting conversation going back and forth between the various people in the PC quorum. Kane's been harping for changes in attack ranges and the cost of attack ranges, from shifting from clone attrition to a point cost. And they're also talking about changes in the conquest points, which is basically your ability points for a corporation, based on member activity, to basically be a little bit more fair.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually not bad. I've heard a couple guys talk about that.
But this is all ongoing conversation. The conversation is very dynamic. The topics change often. The focus of where an issue might be, it shifts from almost day to day. I mean, if you're interested in the PC quorum. Just hop into the Skype channel for PC update.
Yep. No, I've heard. I am not part of that, but I've heard that it is a pretty interesting discussion, if nothing else. All right, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good rundown, Iron Wolf. We may have to revisit PC with kind of an understanding of where they're at on that here in one of our upcoming shows. Let's that you give me a couple things on my little notebook of things that we need to talk about in future shows anyway. So let's go ahead and knock out shout-outs, guys. Let's start at the bottom of the list, and we'll start with Bait. What do you got, brother?
I'd like to shout out to John Fogarty for putting on a wonderful show Friday night. Fantastic show. Shout out to my corporation, Demonic Cowboys, and yeah.
Alrighty then. Pokey?
Just shout out to the Dust community for sticking with the game for so long. Those of you who are still here, you've gone through a lot of stuff, and we're so glad to have you. So here's to a 2-year anniversary.
Good deal. Zell?
I'm going to give a shout out to that whole Power Core thread in general and everyone participating in it, because it's really cool to see how quickly a idea has gone from just like a random musing to being like a serious discussion with CCP.
Okay. No, that's totally legit. Iron Wolf? I'd like to give a shout out to the community that has been supporting tiericide since its inception. We're finally doing it! Yay!
Alright, Catmark.
I'd like to give a shout out to my PS3 for still being alive and kicking after 3 years of abuse. That thing is a goddamn trooper running dust all these years. Also, I would like to say fuck you to my PS3 for giving me access to this abusive ship that it does.
That's awesome.
Good. Oh my god. I'm writing that down. Okay. All right. So my shout outs for the evening. Let's see. I will throw an interesting one out on you to support your local pet shelter. Anybody that runs a no-kill shelter out there that you get your pets and your dogs from, and occasionally cats. And I did that just for you, Catmark. Highly recommend that you support those folks and give them a look if you're in the market for a new family pet. So that was kind of my tree hugger moment for the month. And I'd also like to, let's see, what else should I give a shout out to? I am going to give a shout out to Aiwha Bait, who has become a significant contributor to the Biomassed podcast empire, podcast / blogs / commentary, writing things, and social media empire. And Bait has done a great job of stepping in and helping out, getting a lot of content out for folks. Really, really sharp guy, and I do recommend that you read what he writes. So, on that note, folks, we're gonna start closing the lights down here on Studio 54, and we're gonna land the plane tonight on the episode known as Episode 54, aka "My Ferret Has Been Acting Up," said by Soraya with witnesses. And with that, guys.
Wait, before we close.
Oh, go ahead.
Can somebody explain why the hell middle of the list Raya is his name?
Yeah. It's real simple because Zell, just however it works out, he has consistently been the first person to do any kind of intro or shout out, and it really annoys him. And
it just works out that way. It's not like planned or anything.
Once he let Pokey and I know that was a scab that we could pick on, we pick on it continually. So he's been attempting to fence with us by changing his name and moving himself up or down somewhere in the column of folks here in Mumble. We did let him know that it was a valiant effort to be middle of the list, Soraya, but that would really only work if we had like 10 people in channel at the start of the show. Then it might go unnoticed. As of now, not so much. He was basically, a Buick trying to hide behind a sapling, and it wasn't going to happen. All right. So, on that note, guys, good night and good luck.